Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Well, as you may have heard by now, there was a fire at ICTN in the early hours of August 20th. Thanks to quick action taken by the Irving Fire Department, damage to the station was limited, and we're happy to report we never went off the air. So fire safety is definitely top of mind for us, and we've asked Fire Chief Victor Conley and Assistant Chief Richard Stewart to join us with an update on the many ways the fire department works to keep the community safe. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. I definitely want to talk about the fire here at ICTN, but first I want to talk about a special initiative y'all are doing to keep the community safe. You've partnered with the American Heart Association to make sure people know how to do CPR. Will you tell us a bit about that, Chief Conley?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have partnered with the American Heart Association. We've also got a partner with Southland Corporation, 7-Eleven. Southland Corporation donated 711 of these kits, CPR kits. And so we're going to roll that out October the 16th through our corporate communications, is having a meeting with HOA associations, up to 70 of them. And we're going to roll this initiative out. And basically the bottom line is we're going to hook up with the association, pass the kit, we're going to track how many people get it, how many train on it, recognize the HOA for what they're doing. And of course, the ultimate goal is to get the kits in a lot of people's hands. And it's hands-only CPR. There's no cooties, mouth-to-mouth cooties, so we just do hands-on CPR. So it's a good program. We recently went up to a local business where the employees of the business knew how to do CPR and saved one of their employees' life. Oh, wow. And so it's very important and it's very simple. So we want to roll it out and educate our people where they're not afraid to jump in and help save somebody's life.
Wonderful. Chief Stewart, can you elaborate on that a bit? I know the old school CPR, as Chief Conley mentioned, people would kind of fear if they could get cooties, as he said, or whatever their fears may have been, but now it's hands only.
Exactly, and the fire department, our fire department here in the city actually did a study to show that hands-only CPR is actually more effective than the old CPR where it was the compressions and breath. So it's proven itself that it hands-only works, and these kits will go a long way in getting early CPR to those who need it.
Wonderful. And how exactly does CPR fit into the fire department? Because a lot of people think of y'all going out and fighting fires, and they're going, why are you involved with CPR? So how does that work?
Well, EMS, Emergency Medical Services, is part of our duties as well. We have 10 ambulances that run across the city, and we take care of that aspect for the city. We do not only the fire service, but also the emergency medical service as well.
Well, Chief Conley, I know that the most important thing you do when there's an emergency situation is to call 911, and a lot of our viewers know that too, so that help will be on the way. But firefighters receive medical training for situations like this. Let's talk about the specific training y'all receive.
The medical training we receive when you hire on as a firefighter, the state, their Texas Commission on Fire Protection. And the commission requires a new applicant to go through Basic Fire Academy and a basic EMT program. So when you hear somebody say, I'm an EMT, most of the time that means they're basic EMT certified through the National Registry. So that's a requirement before they even start the job, get out on the street. Now then, as they put their time in career, they can volunteer, or as they promote up, they're required to go to paramedic training, which is an EMT advanced certification. So a paramedic is basically a 2-year course that's crammed in about 7 months, because the employee's away from the job and they're in lecture, they're hands-on, rotating through hospitals and doing internships. So it requires about 7 to 8 months at a time away from the department, and then there's medical CE that's required over a 4-year period, 144 hours I believe off the top of my head, that they're required to maintain that certification. And we have medical CE every month. We have an EMS training specialist that goes over the latest technology, latest practices with our paramedics and EMTs, so we stay on the front lines. You know, the national average for a CPR save is what most people refer to it as. We refer to it as spontaneous return to circulation, is about 8 or 9%. And here in the city, we're upwards of 20, close to 30%. Wow. So we take great pride in what we do. Like Chief Stewart said, we have paramedics not only on every ambulance, but we have on every fire truck and every fire engine. So if the ambulance isn't there yet, you've got paramedics on the scene. that have the capability to deliver advanced life support and medications straight as if you were in an emergency room. We operate under a doctor's license, so they control what we do, how we do it, and when we do it. And that brings the emergency room to the patient for their care.
I'm glad you brought that up. I want to go back to you, Chief Stewart, and talk about the other types of emergencies y'all actually handle, because like we said, it's not just fires. So what kind of emergencies do you respond to?
Well, obviously, we respond to the building fires and the house fires. We respond to car fires, major accidents or automobile accidents is probably commonly known. Any type of medical emergency, from the simple fall to an unconscious person to traumatic injuries. We respond pretty much. When somebody doesn't know what to do, they call us. I've actually gotten snakes out of trees. I've gotten horses untangled from fences.
Wow.
So it depends on what, when people don't know what to do, they call the fire department. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Just dovetail in here to where we've also got our technical rescue team. They're trained in confined space rescue, high angle rescue, low angle rescue, trench rescue, structure collapse. They deploy not only in the region, throughout the state. So when Hurricane Harvey hit, they were the first personnel on scene with our regional team, which is called Texas Task Force 2. It's a regional response team throughout the state. So a lot of times Task Force 1 deploys not only nationally but internationally.
Oh, wow.
And so Task Force 2 is the next team to step up for any emergencies here in the state of Texas. We have a regional hazmat team that responds to any hazardous material within the city to contain it and reduce the impact on the environment and the people that live there. We also have Swiftwater Rescue Team, which, here lately we've needed. Matter of fact, the rain event past Saturday, we had 11 Swiftwater rescues.
Wow. That's a lot.
So from fire service that began in the 1800s to now, it seems like every time emergency comes along, whether it's weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, nuclear devices, all the way to EMS, we find a way to meet the needs of the community to keep it safe.
And that includes taking care of fires like the one that was here
Absolutely.
at ICTN. And of course, a lot of us are just wanting to get more information about that. And a lot of the viewers are very interested too. So can you kind of give us a timeline on how everything happened here at ICTN?
Well, I'm going to pass the baton. Chief Stewart's over operations.
Wonderful.
So he's very familiar with what the teams did and how they functioned during that time.
So shortly after 1 o'clock in the morning on August 20th, I believe it was,
That's correct.
we received a notification for an automatic fire alarm at this address. Engine 5 was dispatched, and when they arrived, there was no evidence from the outside of smoke or fire. When they got off the engine and they started doing their assessment, they could smell smoke. So they kind of walked around the building to try to make sure that they pinpointed it to minimize damage, to make sure they're going in the right door. And they actually went through the front door, I believe. They used what we call a K tool to force entry into the doors, and then they started following the smell and the smoke. The lobby area there was light haze of smoke, and as they got deeper into, when they found the control room, it was fully charged with smoke, and they called for. They also called for an upgrade to a structural or full response to bring more equipment here, and when they got there, they started ventilating the area and put the small fire out relatively quickly. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. Life safety is our #1 priority. Second priority is to minimize damage, and I think they did that here. They did a really well job. As you stated, they never went off the air. So
I would definitely agree, and I know everyone here at ICTN would as well. I've been looking at the pictures and the video, and our viewers have been watching it as you described that. I want to go back a bit, though, because our engineer, Ken North, said they learned the fire likely started with a monitor. So does that type of fire pose any type of particular challenge for the firefighters? Because there's a lot of monitors here.
Not that I could think of, other than it's just fire's the same. It just is smoke, fire, heat. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing no matter what. So a monitor really doesn't make any difference unless it's if it's a charged high voltage or something where we'd have to be particularly concerned with that. But typically not a major concern.
Good. Now, I know there was a lot of damage here. Even though it was a contained fire, y'all quickly contained it, there was still a lot of damage. What can you share with our viewers about that in case something like this ever happens to them?
I can tell you in today's world, with all the polymers, the plastics that are found in the homes or businesses, it creates a lot of smoke, a lot of chemicals that are emitted during a fire. So when that happens, it creates a lot of damage, as we can see in the control rooms, and how much that small fire affected. So and that goes to a life safety issue, really, because fires today are they grow quickly, they grow exponentially compared to in years past, and they create a very deadly smoke that could kill people very quickly.
Thank you for letting us know that and making people aware. And thank you for making sure ICTN is still here and was able to stay on the air because of y'all's quick efforts. We appreciate that. Now, let's talk about a larger recent emergency, Chief Conley, where training and experience really came into play. It was really frightening to see as that parking garage collapse happened, and it required a huge response. There was some assistance from firefighters from other departments. So how did that mutual aid really help make for a successful response?
Well, as firefighters and particularly incident commanders on that particular call, we were sitting in the office when it came in, and we knew it would be a big event, international. So we all responded to that incident. I took charge of the scene, and Chief Stewart was my Division Alpha chief, and basically he was over the operations right at the scene, and I was managing resources. And what outside resources do, you get them en route in case you need them, because you don't want to call for them when you need them, because it's too late at that point. So knowing the magnitude of this collapse, it happened about 11:30 in the afternoon, so it's close to lunch. It happened parking garage attached to a high-rise, next door to another high-rise. So we're not sure the life safety aspect where we're at. So we quickly asked for the USAR team, the team I was just telling you about, Texas Task Force 2, USAR. And the majority of that team is made up of Dallas Fire Rescue, but there's other municipalities that's part of that team. They responded with us. They stayed in staging most of the time. When I arrived on scene, I set up command and got unified command with the police department, had them do a quick assessment of the local buildings to see who's in their seat in the office, who's not, can you get in touch with them, what cars do they drive, so on and so forth. So the police department assisted me in that regard. Chief Stewart had the Alpha, or the front side of the building. I had him working with our Irving Fire Department Technical Rescue Team. They were assessing what was going on the ground, and they were real quick to get the dogs in to see if there's, any humans that were trapped in the debris. And quickly I believe one dog hit, so we brought in a second dog just to verify, and that dog didn't. So we were able to get the USAR team to go in and do a quick search, and they discovered there's nobody in any of the vehicles. So that by itself was a miracle.
For sure.
11:30, right? Everybody goes to lunch.
Everybody go to lunch, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it wasn't just a little section as you saw on the TV, it was about a 40 by 40 section. So we got structural engineers out and we assessed the building. We determined probably 2 or 3 columns back from where it collapsed, there's potential for another collapse. And sure enough, 4:30 that afternoon, half of that section that we identified fell. So it was no surprise. We had quarantined the area off, got all the cars out that we could. And we were very fortunate nobody got hurt in that incident, but it was international. We got calls from all over the world about it. There may be some changes as far as inspection goes, we don't know, but bottom line is nobody was hurt. So we were able to turn the scene over to the business owner to get what cars they could off, clean the debris up, and then I think insurance and all that stuff is taking place now. So
great job, for sure.
Yeah.
Chief Stewart, how did your pretty new training facility, which opened last year, help y'all to prepare for that emergency and all the others that you face?
Well, it's a state-of-the-art facility. Speaking to that incident specifically, we have some technical rescue props, we call them, where they can actually go in and train on different things, whether it's a trench or high angle where they're hanging off the side of the building. So they have different props in that facility or on those grounds where they can actually train for the technical rescue aspect of our job. So yeah, and then we have a burn tower where we can either have actual fires in there or just smoke it up to make it make it as real life as possible without affecting the environment and keeping it as safe as we can for our firefighters to train in.
And how will that venture actually benefit residents of both cities involved?
Well, training is the next best thing. You know, you can never get enough training to know your job and do your job and do it in a high level and very well. So it gives us the opportunity we used to go to DFW to do our live fire training is what we call it. And now we can do that here and we can do it more often. We can do our own scenarios. So it really helps our training of our own firefighters in Grand Prairie as well to be better firefighters.
So on a practice level, it keeps both departments tip-top shape because they're able to train on basically any scenario they can think of. We can interact between two departments, so if we're called out on mutual aid to assist each other, we can do that. But financially, the cities were responsible for 50% of the facility. So a facility that costs $4.5 million, that's not used all the time by any city. We were able to split that cost with Grand Prairie and save the citizens about $2.25.
People
On the
love
facility.
saving
Oh
money.
yeah, absolutely. Why
For
not?
sure. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned different facilities because I know there are changes coming to Station 4. What decision went behind that?
Well, I'm gonna pass the baton again. Chief Stewart is over this project. He helped
gives
on
you the hard
Station 12.
ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Actually, our current Station 4, which is on MacArthur Boulevard, was opened in September of 1960. So we're looking at a relatively old building. It's small. It's not very efficient energy-wise. Our equipment, our fire apparatus is getting bigger, so we're having a hard time fitting it in there. So it's that building has met its lifetime expectancy. So the next step is to find a place for a new one, and we were fortunate enough with the Toller family to find the property there on Metker and move it there. It's going to be a little more south and east, which really won't affect anything. Frankly, I think it's going to be a better response for the Station 4 guys. So those were the kind of the factors in moving it.
Makes good sense. And so now let's switch from that station to Station 12. I know that became operational in 2017. How has that benefited that area by having Station 12 to serve?
Well, we did several studies, different studies to determine. We rely on response times. Time is everything in our business, whether it's a EMS, a heart attack, or if it's a fire, obviously. So the sooner you get there, the better off everybody is. So we did multiple studies to find where the best location for the Fire Station 12 would be, and it turned up to be up there in that corridor along 635. So doing so, it's made impacts in Hackberry Creek, Valley Ranch, the commercial businesses all around, not to mention along the freeways. It's definitely been impactful.
Wonderful. Now, facilities are important, but Chief Conley, so is equipment. And people think of you guys for having the trucks and the engines, but you've also added tiller trucks?
Yeah, tiller trucks. They're pretty neat. They're traditional. A lot of your bigger cities, New York, Dallas, they have tiller trucks, Los Angeles. But, you know, our city's growing. It's a big city. If we didn't border Dallas, we'd be a big city anywhere else in the United States. You know, we're hitting close to 240,000 people. Construction is changing. They want high density, narrow streets, cars park on the streets. These trucks, believe it or not, get in extremely tight locations because they're able to steer the trailer part of the truck as well as the tractor part. So you have a driver up front driving the tractor, and then you have a driver in the back driving the trailer part.
Wow.
So if you can imagine, as a truck goes around the corner, the trailer driver can swing that back end out and they just go straight around the corner. And that's why they're utilized in tight locations. And they carry more equipment on them. So they're all around, it's just a better fit for where Irving's going. And so when we see the development of Delaware Creek, we're looking at possibly high density construction at the old Texas Stadium site. La Villita. There's a lot of tight corridors in this city already, and we've actually had the tiller trucks go out and compete against our engine pumpers, who can get in the tightest place and get out of it, and 9 times out of 10 the tiller wins. They usually bet what, a half a gallon of ice cream. You know, so they keep it a gentleman's bet, but they're awesome apparatus. I put this in our strategic plan back in 2012, not knowing if we could accomplish it. But with the help of people like Chief Stewart, Chief Harvey, we were able to go out and interview some cities on the West Coast and got feedback from up in Seattle. So we did our homework. We're the first city in the state of Texas with these Pierce tiller trucks. Now there's other manufacturers, but Pierce is a huge manufacturing company of fire apparatus in Appleton, Wisconsin. We're the first department in the state to get their tiller trucks. And I think Dallas is following along, and I know that even Flower Mound's looking at getting tiller trucks now. So we're kind of setting a standard for your medium-sized cities in Texas. With the growth that's coming in and hitting us, these apparatus are able to maneuver and park and get to places that our other larger trucks couldn't do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Chief Stewart, I know something else that's near and dear to the hearts of the department would be community outreach. And so I know y'all just wrapped up a great program. Everybody's been talking about it. It's the annual Supplies for Success program. Can you tell us about that?
It's a phenomenal program that the city, the fire department shares with our community partners within the city, where fire stations collect school supplies, new school supplies for the underprivileged kids of the school district. And we collect them at each station, then we bring them to a central location and we fill backpacks. I think this year we filled over 6,000 backpacks. We had the event at Irving High and Lively Point Park. It's grown from just giving backpacks and school supplies to they actually do haircuts, they do inoculations, they do dental exams, eye exams. It's a phenomenal program to help the kids of this community.
Wonderful.
It's a true community event, like Chief Stewart said. And not only that, but we partner with the YMCA. There's corporate partners that jump in there and help us. The school district help us identify the children that need this help with backpacks. So it's all around community event that help people that are underprivileged, like Chief Stewart said. It's a great program. It tends to grow every year, just like our MDA Blue Christmas does. We help more and more families, and that's what we like to do as firemen. You know, we love to give back.
Well, it's evident. You guys also helped really a lot last year. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and a lot of people just really were impressed with how you were able to help the Irving Healthcare Foundation during Breast Cancer Awareness Month last month. So tell us about that initiative and what you did.
Yeah, so last year our Firefighter Association came up to us. They wanted to kick this event off. Our Citizens Fire Academy alumni, which are community members that learn about the fire department and get involved in their own association, and they come help us at anything from bringing us water at a big structure fire to breast cancer awareness. They'll show up and help us any way they can. And so they sold enough T-shirts throughout the community, and the CFA probably gets more credit than anybody. But almost $22,000 worth of funds were they able to raise and donate 100% to our local Irving chapter. So it was a great event. It turned out really well. We don't do it every year. We always do breast cancer awareness, but last year we wanted to step out a little bit further and try to raise some funds, and they were able to do an impeccable job.
Speaking of stepping out, I also understand that you're reaching out and helping with brain cancer awareness too.
Well, I'll give you a little background on that. I went to the National Fire Academy, went through a 4-year executive fire officer program. My 4th year I wrote a paper. You got to write a research paper in this program, and it's about 65 pages long on cancers in the fire service. And one of the cancers that impact firefighters is brain cancer. It's one of the top 10. As a matter of fact, you're 32% more likely in the fire service to get brain cancer than the general population.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is multiple, but one primary, as Chief Stewart talked about, chemicals. You were talking about polymers. It's all your oil-based products. They kick off carcinogens like crazy. We're exposed to nearly 84,000 chemicals out there at a regular house fire, because everything is built out of plastics or oil-based products, from your furniture to your clothes to anything in the house. And so these chemicals are heavy laden. They lay in there dormant in some firefighters, and the problem is, up until this year, Congress passed a bill in the law that we have to keep track of firefighters once they retire or while they're on duty that get cancer. Not only that they get cancer, what kind of cancer they get. Because a lot of the cancers come on, and it's we've identified it as a secret killer of firefighters, because a lot of it happens after you retire.
Thank you for sharing that with us so that we can be aware too and know that we need to help out and raise funds to help you guys with this initiative that you're doing. Now, what was this rib eating contest? So what was that supporting?
Well, the Texas Roadhouse, and I will say that's my favorite place to eat. But they kicked this event off, and everybody likes to see the fire and police department compete, right?
Right.
I mean, whether it's football, full contact, or Last year we went out and competed against the police in a shooting at the shooting range.
Who won? Never mind, don't answer that.
Okay, I won't, but we did. So anyway, the rib eating contest, it was 5 against 5. And they kick off, what they have to do, they eat their plate of ribs and they have to suck applesauce through a straw.
What?
I don't know, they came up with it. We don't care, it's a competition. So when you finish yours, it goes to the next person in the relay. So there's 5 police officers, 5 firefighters, right?
Ew.
And so they were trucking along there pretty close, and we have a firefighter, Eric Wilkes. He sticks the whole rib out and cleans it off with one fatal swoop and just has a bone left and just totally annihilated the police department. And we jumped way ahead. And matter of fact, police 5th eater didn't even get started. We were done, you know. So, and our captain, our anchor, he's been up to Amarillo, and he's eating a 72-ounce steak with all the trimmings. And when he got through, he asked for some dessert.
So what you're saying is that firefighters can out-eat policemen?
We can. It's our turn, right? We're on screen.
Yes.
We can beat them in pretty much anything.
I didn't say that.
I
He
know.
said that.
I know. Police will have their turn on screen,
I
but
have to interview police officers too.
I know it. I
We
know
love
it,
you
I
equally.
know. We love each other, but we do love to compete.
Yes, we like to have a lot of fun around here, but there is a very serious week this month, and that is Fire Prevention Week. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. I'd be remiss if I didn't get into that a little bit. So I just want to give you a little bit of history on Fire Prevention Week. Bottom line, President Coolidge implemented Fire Prevention Week back in 1925. And the reason he did it was to memorialize the occasion of the conflagration fire that took place in Chicago in 1871. 250 people died in that fire. Over 100,000 were homeless. 2,000 acres. It was just a horrible, horrific fire. So Coolidge implemented it. It's the oldest running public observation health holiday.
Interesting.
Yeah, since 1925. So fast forward to this year. Our initiative this year is to look, listen, learn. Okay, basically what that means is look, you want to look around your house and make sure any fire hazards are taken care of. Your smoke detectors have batteries in them. You've got a carbon monoxide detector. If you've got any type of fossil fuels, they all got batteries ready to detect, ready to go. Clean out any extension cords that are overloaded, anything that's a fire hazard.
Okay.
Get rid of it. That's your look part. Listen part. Listen. You're going to listen for these smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors going off. And you need to have a plan. So if they do go off, get out of the house to a safe location, a safe distance from the house, and make sure all your family and friends are accounted for. Time is of the essence. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of seconds between life and death when smoke's coming in there. And then the final part is learn. Learn 2 ways out of your room. Make sure the path is clear, unobstructed, and you got 2 ways out. So that's the initiative this year for Fire Prevention Week. Starts October the 7th through the 13th. We've expanded it to the month of October. We continuously work with our community from showing a safety house to 3rd graders, to fire extinguishers with 6th graders, to working with our corporate partners to set wardens up on each floor. We do that year round. That's our job, right? But for this moment of time, the community takes time out, school district takes time out, October 7th through the 13th, Fire Prevention Week. Put it on your calendar, check your batteries, make sure everybody's safe.
Wonderful. Would you like to add to that, Chief Stewart?
I would just, as far as fire prevention, we do a lot of, or Fire Prevention Week, we do a lot of involvement in the schools. We do, as Chief Conley said, year round, but this week coming up is really focused on the kids. We do a lot of show and tells, we do a lot of school visits, we do a lot of station visits to try to get that fire safety education, really emphasize it this month.
Well, on behalf of the community, thank you. We appreciate you making our children aware of the importance of safety issues, and we thank you for reminding us too. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks. And thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us on Thursday, November 1st at 1:30 p.m. for our next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.